Hello, welcome to the HTML and CSS webinar by Aanya Kungwani. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to give a little speaker introduction about me. So my name's Aanya, and I'm a rising junior from South Forsyth High School with a strong passion for STEM. I lead my school's hack club, and I run a nonprofit tutoring academy called Inspire Academy, where I teach students STEM subjects and coding skills like Python, web development, Java, and more. I also love to participate in local STEM competitions and hackathons in my area, and I just can't wait to help make tech more fun and engaging for you guys today. So today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make your own personal web page. So what is HTML and CSS? So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So this is text that shows like the basic structure and content of a web page. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. This is the design aspect of your website that actually makes it look good, like the colors, fonts, and layouts. So an analogy to understand how they work together is that HTML is like the skeleton of the house because it provides like the basic structure, foundation, and layout. Whereas CSS is like the decoration and interior design of a house as it provides style and makes everything look really good. So how do websites work? So what happens is when you type a URL like code.org, your browser will request a file from an online server. This file will be read in HTML and styled using CSS. So your browser will then read the code from the file and show you a site. So this kind of like explains how HTML and CSS work together and come and play together to just make our lives so much easier and display web pages for us. So some HTML basics. So every HTML file starts with this common structure. So it starts with doc type HTML, which is the opening, and this basically just tells your browser it's an HTML document because there's multiple different languages, and this just helps distinguish that really well. And then there's the HTML. So this is the opening, and this is like kind of the container for your whole web page, and it has all of your head and body content within it. So every line of code you have goes inside of the HTML, and the closing of the HTML is at the very, very end. And then within that, there's the head. So the head is where your setup information goes. And this is basically like essentially background information or behind the scenes information for your computer. So this kind of just like when whatever you write in the heading isn't actually displayed on the web page, it just tells your computer all of this information so it can process it in the back for the code and the web page to work. And within your head, you can put many things. So for example, you can put your title in the heading. So this would be like the line where it says this is where your title goes. So whatever you write in there, that title will not actually be displayed within the web page. It'll just be background information for your computer to know so that it knows how to process information for the web page. And then you close the heading tag, and then when you open the body tag, so within the body tag, this is where all the stuff that we see and like the visible website content goes. So whatever code you type within the body will be displayed within the web page directly. And there's many things that go inside the body, like different headings. You can put ordered lists, unordered lists. You can put paragraphs. You can put images. And I'm kind of gonna break the head and the body down in more content in the next few slides. And then you can close your HTML tag at the final end. So, like I said, the head is like the behind the scenes information of your HTML. So within the head, there's three things that people typically put. There's the title, which sets the title, the meta, and this basically just tells your browser what character set to use. So it's like the meta chair set. UTF-8 is the most common one that we use, and that's the one we'll be using today because it supports like all characters, numbers, emojis, and more. And then the style goes in your head, and this determines the style information or the CSS for your HTML document. So one thing to keep in mind is that when the HTML and CSS are in the same file, you want to use the style tag within the HTML. But if you were to do your styling in a different file, then you would want to link to your CSS style sheet using a link tag. So for the purposes today, just to keep it simple, we're just going to be using the style tag. So here's an example of the code. I'm going to try to... Okay, I don't think I can zoom in. But basically, we have the heading. Within the heading, we have the meta chair set, so we define it for UTF-8. We have our title, and our title is just my personal webpage. And then within that, we have the styling. So inside of the styling is where your actual CSS goes. So what this line of code says, it has H1, an opening bracket. It says the color is pink, the font size is 12 pixels, and it closes that bracket. So what this essentially means is this is actually CSS. What this means is that whatever you code for the first heading, it'll always show up being the color pink and being 12 pixels for its font size. So this just defines like the styling information of our web page, and then you can close the head. And then within the body, we have many different tags we can put, and the body is like the visible. Again, it's like the visible content for your website. So it's whatever we code in here will be visibly displayed on our web page, and we can see that. So the headings, there's 6 headings. It goes from H1 to H6, and these just help define the structure of the web page, and there's 6 levels available: H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and 6. H1 is the main heading, and this has the largest text, and then as you move down from H1 to H6, your heading text gets smaller size. And then we have paragraphs, which are written using a P tag. And this is where you can write descriptive information. You can just write paragraphs in here, essentially. Your image tag is IMG, and this is where you can embed and show an image into a page. Your lists, so that's pretty self-explanatory. Your list, there's 2 different types of lists. There's a UL list and an OL list. UL lists using the UL tag are unordered lists like bullets, and that essentially just whatever information you put, it'll put that in a list using bullet points. Whereas if you were to use the OL tag, that's an ordered list using numbers, and so whatever information you had like in a list, it would order it from numbers like 1 through however amount of things you have. And then lastly, links. So this is the A tag, and this tag basically acts as a hyperlink. So you can just, if within your web page, you can link to another web page. So if you're making like, for example, an informational site where you just want to like list your resources, oh, sorry, I thought my thing disconnected. You can just link to a bunch of different things, just to make everything easier. And one thing to always keep in mind with tags is that every tag has an opening and a closing. So for example, for your like list, like UL and OL, so if you were to use a UL, you were doing unordered list, you would have a UL opening tag, you would write your information, and then you would have a UL closing tag as well. And the closing tag has a backslash in front of the UL. So just keep in mind that your code will not work unless you have a closing and an opening and a closing. Okay. So now moving on to CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So the CSS basically just helps you style your web page, and it just makes it look really pretty. So an example is like, sorry, my screen like glitched for a second. So anyways, sorry. I was saying that the CSS helps you style your web page and make it look pretty. So an example is H1 color is purple and the text line is center. So this is an example of CSS code, and what it'll do is it'll help your H1 headings look purple as the color and be centered. And you want to keep in mind that whenever you're doing this, you want to end every single line with a semicolon, and whenever you're having the CSS, you want to make sure to put the opening and closing brackets after the tag for the properties and values that you're styling. So there's multiple different tags that you can style as well, like the ones we covered in the body. There's multiple different ones you can cover, like the body, H1, H2, P, like the paragraph, image, and etc. And you can just style those. And like just one more time to keep in mind that you always want to put your brackets after the tag for the properties and values that you're styling, and you want to make sure to always end your line as semicolons. And like this is really important because your code just will not work unless you do this. Okay. So since we're only using one file, like I explained before, we're just going to be adding CSS inside of the style tags in our heading. So here's an example here. So we have our heading. Within the heading, we have our meta char set, our character set that we've defined to be UTF-8. So this will support numbers, emojis, etc. Our title, which again, since everything is in the heading, this is just visible. This is not visible content for us. This is for a computer to process in the back. So those things are really important to keep in mind as you're looking through the code. And then you have your style tag, and within your style tag is where all your CSS goes. So if you were to style like headings, paragraphs, unordered list, ordered list, images, etc. And then you have the closing style tag and the closing head tag. And again, inside the style tag is just where all your CSS rules will be. So there's some example styles that I wanted to cover that you can do. They're all most of them are pretty self-explanatory. So Color, you can just define the color of whatever property you have. Text align, you can align your text to be either in the left, center, or middle. Font size, which just changes the font or text size. Font family, which is like the different families of the fonts, like Arial, Verdana, sans serif, like all the common ones. Line height, which just spaces your code. You can change the width and the length. So the width and the length and the height are actually best for when you're doing images, because you can, if you have an image and it's just way too big, taking up the whole screen, you can use these properties to just restyle it really well. A border, will just add a border to your to your web page. Border radius would create a rounded border if you didn't want like the typical box border. The list style type will change the bullets or the number style used in a list depending to what you set it to. So if you wanted like there's different types of bullets, right? There's like the open bullet with like the like nothing in it. It's just like clear, I think. And then you could do the closed bullet. They have like the box bullets, the like triangle bullets. Like you can change all of that using list style type depending on whatever your web page wants. Text decoration, that's just if you want to use decorative lines over your text. Hover, which is just the user can hover over an element. Typically this would be best to use for links. So like if someone wanted to click on a link, they could hover over it just to know what the link is. And then padding just creates space around the element's content rather than having a clear and defined border. So if you just wanted to space things out more, basically. So here are some examples of more CSS basics. So we have heading 1. So we have some like headings you could code for. So for example, if you did heading 1, color is black and the font size is 18 pixels, this would make your heading 1, like anything that you write in your heading 1 would be black and 18 pixels. The same applies for paragraphs, which are written using the p tag. So you can define the font family, you can define line height. Images, you can do width, you can do border radius. List, the different list types. So if you did the UL, the unordered list, within that, if you wrote list style type square, that means anything that you have in an unordered list, instead of it being in the typical rounded bullets, it would be in square bullets. And then for OL, if you had an ordered list, instead of it being numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., it would be as circles. So that technically like undefines it as like an unordered list because it's not ordered by numbers anymore. It's ordered in a different sense. And then you could also change the styling properties for links. So if you used your A tag and you said the color was purple, text decoration is an underline, overline, dotted red, that would just make your text be the color purple, and the decoration when you were to click on the link, it would just have an overlap or an underline overline that's red. And then a hover is if you wanted to hover over your link. So you could say that when you hover over the link, it gives you an underline that's wavy pink and it's 10 pixels, for example. So those are just some different things you can do with the CSS. Okay, so HTML and CSS obviously work together. So here's an example of everything running together. I'm not sure if I can zoom in. Let me try. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, I'm just going to put it back on presentation mode because I don't think I can zoom in. But basically, so you would have, again, the doc type HTML. I'm just going to go over everything one more time. So the doc type HTML, it tells the code that, it tells the computer and the code that it's going to be a HTML document type that you're coding for, not any other language. You have the opening HTML tag. Within that, you have your head and your body. Remember, the head is the information that the computer uses to process, and whereas the body is like the visible website content that we actually see displayed on the web page. Within the head, you can set your character set, you can write a title, and you can style different things. So in this example, they've styled the heading 1 to be pink and font size 12 pixels. So anything written as heading 1 will be pink and 12 pixels. And then they also had the opening bracket and the closing bracket after the h1 property, and that's really important. And then after each value property that they had, like color pink, font size 12 pixels, they made sure to put a semicolon so that everything would actually work. And then you could do the same for any other things you want. So in this example, they did it for a paragraph. So the font family, they set it to sans serif, and the border would be 3 pixels solid black. So this means that anything you write in the paragraph will be sans serif, and it'll have a border that's 3 pixels and solid black. And then you close the styling tag, and again, it has the backslash in front of the styling tag, which just properly closes it. And since everything was in the head, you have to make sure you close the head, because what would happen if you didn't close the head is that all of this and like if you didn't close the head and you didn't open the body, everything would go inside of your head and it would just wouldn't be complete. So one, it wouldn't work, and also your body tag, like your actual content, wouldn't work at all because it hasn't been defined in a body. It hasn't been defined in the body space where the visible website content is meant to be. So you want to make sure you close the heading tag, open the head tag, open the body tag. Within the body tag, you can write code for anything. So for example, for my first heading, I wrote my name is Anya. So what this is going to do is when the website comes to play together, when everything's together, it's going to say my name is Anya. And since we defined before that the heading one is pink and has a font of 12 pixels, at the top of my web page, it's going to say my name is Anya in pink and be 12 pixels. Same applies for the paragraph. I said a little bit about me is that I'm a rising junior and I love to bake and go for runs. So when the web page opens, it's going to have that paragraph. A little bit about me is that I'm a rising junior. I love to bake and go for runs. And that's going to be written in sans serif family size, and it's going to have a border that's 3 pixels around it. And then I use an unordered list here. So you can put multiple things in an unordered list. In my example, I just put one. Sorry, it keeps saying at the bottom that it disconnected, so I thought, okay. So it has the opening UL tag, so this is your unordered list. And then within the UL, you want to write LI. So the LI tag that you open and close, that says that it's a list. So this would mean that since you have the UL at the top, it's unordered, and then the LI means unordered list, and they come together to make an unordered list. So what this would look like when the web page came together is that you would have an unordered list, and within that unordered list, it would say my favorite color is rose gold with a bullet point, not a number, since it's not ordered. And if I wanted to, I could go back up to the style and I could style the unordered list however I wanted, and it would be displayed in the web page. And then I have my closing UL tag because again, you have to have a closing. Every tag has to have an opening and a closing. And then I have the closing for my body tag, and then I have the closing because everything was in the body starting from my name is Anya, and then you have the closing HTML, which is closing every single thing, so all of the head and body information is getting saved. So this is a little bit of starter code that I used when I was making my personal website, and I had as a little bit of a demo. So if anyone is coding alongside with me, you can copy and paste this starting code, or not copy paste, but like maybe type out this starting code if you just wanted to try it out yourself. But again, this kind of covers the same content that the previous slide covered. It has the HTML doc type, HTML, the head with the computer information, the stylings information, and I styled an image in this case too, so I used other properties like border radius, padding, width. I closed all of my tags, and then I wrote some information in my body. I also linked to an image, and I think this is something to also go over. So when you're linking to an image, the way you have it is that you have an opening image tag. You write SRC, which stands for source, equals, and then you have a double quotation marks. And what you put inside that double quotation marks is the actual source of your image. So how you would do it if you were to actually make this web page yourself is that you would search up your link on Google or whatever, and then you would click on the right, I think you would right click on the image and you would get the link, and then you would paste that into your image source in the double quotation marks here. And then you have ALT, which stands for the alternate description, and you would say that equals, and then in your double quote you would write 1 or 2 words that explains the image link you pasted in. So for example, if I wanted to link to an image of a dog, I would say image source equals, I would link the image of the dog I got, and then in my ALT or my alternate equals, in the quotation marks, I would just write dog, or I would write pic of dog, or it's just a few simple lines that define that. And yeah. Okay, so now I'll be presenting a live demo of a personal webpage that I made about me. And really quickly, I'm just gonna grab my charger because my MacBook's about to die. So sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So I'm gonna be showing you an exemplar about me page that I made. If you guys want, you guys can try making your own in the meantime, or some other time. But so this is my screen. I'm gonna start by first showing the web page and how it looks, and then I'll go deep into the code. and explain that. So I have Anya's personal webpage. And again, since I use the reason that we're able to see these emojis is because I use the meta chair set UTF-8. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to support these emojis. And then I have a little paragraph. I said, hi, my name's Anya, and I love coding and iced coffee. I wrote some facts about me. So like I love baking, and as I told you guys, I run my own nonprofit tutoring academy. I wrote my hobbies. And then here we can see I wrote 4 hobbies I have: running, building projects, listening to music, cooking recipes. So the way I did this is, since you're seeing these bullet points, this means that an unordered list has been used in my code, and that's exactly what I used because we're seeing bullet points. If we were to see numbers like running, like number 1 running, number 2 projects, 3 music, 4 cooking recipes, that would mean I use an ordered list because it's ordering them by numbers. And then I wrote, here's a pic of my favorite TV show. Again, I just used another heading like I did for the hobbies. And then I put a picture of my favorite TV show, which is How I Met Your Mother. And the way I did this is I used the image source coding. So I did image source equal, I put a link to my code. And then for my alternate description, I just wrote fave TV show or How I Met Your Mother. Just some lines to explain it. So, and then I also styled all these properties in the CSS. So in the site that I've used, HTML and CSS are separately defined. So I did it a little bit differently. But if you guys were to do this, you would just link the CS, like using the tutorial I give today, you would just link the CSS within the HTML using the styling tag. And again, remember, open the tag and close the tag. And the way I use CSS here is I made my first heading H1 be pink. I added the emojis in. I made my text be white. I made the whole entire background, like this whole thing, be black. I made my hobbies be a light blue color. So my H1 I coded to be light blue. I coded for the unordered list to be white, and I think I just set it to the regular font. I think either Arial or Verdana. I think it says Verdana, so I did that. And then same thing for the other heading. I did the same thing. I set it to blue. And then for image, I was able to put the rounded like border because I coded for that in the CSS. So this kind of just explains how the HTML and CSS are coming together. And I think it's personally really cool because you're like coding things out and you're seeing that being reflected on your web page, and then you're styling it and you're seeing it actually come to life and come to color with the CSS. So let me see if I can show the code. Okay, yeah. So this is my coding that I use for the HTML and the CSS. So again, we can see that I defined my document type to be HTML. I have the opening HTML, opening head. I set my meta character set to be UTF-8, which allowed the emojis. I created a title. So my title was my personal page. So again, this shows how like the title isn't always displayed because I called my title my personal page, right? But how can I see my website? Okay, yeah. I don't, wait. I'm just gonna reload real quick. Yeah. I don't know where my website went. Oh, wait. Sorry. Give me 1 second. I don't know where my website went. I think. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the slides and open the website again. Okay, here it is. Sorry. So we can see here that if you were to look at the title, it says my personal page, right? But when we look at my web site, it says Anya's personal page with the emojis. And the reason it doesn't say what's in the title is because I defined this in the head. So what this is going to do is it's going to tell the computer that this is like my personal page, but in reality, when it's displayed, it's going to display whatever it says in the body. And that makes a lot of sense because if you were to go down to this body line, you can see that I said H1, my first heading should be Anya's personal page with the emojis. And then since I linked to my CSS on the side here and I didn't have them in the same side, I used the link tag. So I linked my to the style sheet, and my reference is the style.css because that's what this is called. And that concludes my head. And once I close it and I open my body tag is where my actual coding goes. So I coded for H1, the Anya's personal web page. I coded for my paragraphs. So I said my name's Anya and like etc. I coded another paragraph under this, and since I did 2 different paragraphs, we can see that they're spaced out. If I did this in one paragraph, we would just like have everything all together unless I used a line break. And if you don't know what a line break is, it's basically like when if you're using, I think my part got cut off. So I was saying that if you're how a line break works is that if you're using like a really long if you're writing like a really long paragraph or really long line of code and you just don't want it to take up the whole screen, you can use a line break in the middle and that'll split it in half. But what I did here is I just made two different paragraphs for easiness. And then I have my second heading called My Hobbies. And since this is my H2, we can see that it's a lot smaller because, again, as you progress from H1 to H6, it gets smaller each time. So my H1 was this big, but then my hobbies was just like smaller. And then I used a unordered list here so we can see I concluded my H2 tag, by the way. And then I opened my unordered list, I closed my unordered list, and then within that I added multiple different lists. So I said running, building projects, music, and the recipes. And since I used the UL at the top, this reflected in my webpage by showing the brackets. Sorry, not brackets, bullets, the bullet points. And then again, I wanted the hobbies and the here's a pic of my favorite TV show to be the same size, which is why I used H2 again. If I wanted here's a pic of my favorite TV show line of text to be even smaller, what I could do is I could say it's H3, and now this would make this even smaller than the hobbies was, and you could see just like the biggest at the top, smaller, and then it keeps going. And then I did the image source code. So I said image source equals, I found a picture of How I Met Your Mother on the internet, so I just pasted that in. Alternate description, I just wrote How I Met Your Mother. So it's just a little description about what my image is, and obviously this is not shown, like it does not say How I Met Your Mother at the, like obviously on the image it says How I Met Your Mother because that's the image I chose. It doesn't say that on the bottom, and that's because when you're doing this, it won't say what your alternate description is on the actual web page. This is just kind of one of those things that, like, it's like if you were to have a image and let's say you were doing a lot of code later in the future and you don't know what you're, like, you have the link but you have no clue what the image is, reading the alternate description would just help you and make everything a lot easier for you. Okay, and then I closed my body tag, and then I closed the HTML tag. And remember, the body tag is closing all of the content I wrote, and the HTML is closing everything, the head and the body. And then we can also go to the CSS side. So CSS side, I said my body will be font family Verdana, and within Verdana I said sans serif because you can also classify even deeper if you want. I said the background color. So what you can do is you can also custom choose a background color using there's like a CSS color palette. So that's what I used. I can show you guys what the CSS color palette looks like. Let's see. Oh wait, okay. I don't know if it'll let me show you guys a color palette, but yeah, basically, okay, here it is. So, okay. I'm not sure, but basically you can see there's different color palettes. Like this will give you like a purple gray color, this will give you a pink, etc. So you can just copy paste some of these, and there's a way to make your own custom colors too. So that's what I did for my background color. So what this is, since this is the body's background color, this makes your whole entire web page be black. If I did a different HEX like color palette, then it would give me a different color, obviously. And then I also defined my color. So again, I used the HTX color palette, so that just made the color be the one I defined. Margin, I set the margin to be 40 pixels, and I said that the text aligns should be centered. So what this means is, since it's centered, all my text is in the center. If I was to do left align, it would all shift to the left, right align, all to the right. Like, that's pretty self-explanatory. Heading 1, I decided to also, I used a custom-made color palette. But if you don't know how to do that, you can just type out a regular color. I was just using that because that worked for me easier, because I wanted like a specific set color for my web page. So again, I set the color and the font size. So the color that I said for H1 was like, this is some shade of pink, I think. So this just made it pink, and it made it 24 pixels. Same thing for heading 2. I set it a custom blue color, and I made it 20 pixels. So this made my second heading be 20 pixels and blue. For my UL, for my unordered list, I decided to make a line height of 1.5 and list style position of inside. So what this did is this just made my UL be spaced out by 1.5. So it's just a spacing technique. This isn't required. I just wanted it to look a little bit better. And then for my image, I decided to add a border, which is 2 pixels solid, which is why when you go to the border, you can see that we can see a 2 pixel like border. I don't know if you guys can see like this thing. Yeah. And then I also set the border radius to be 8 pixels, which is why it's a thick border radius. If you do like less, then it'll obviously look less thick and it won't be as visible. So that's really good to know. I set the padding of the image to be 6 pixels so we can see that there's a little bit of space in between the different borders just because of the padding. If I did more, it would be a bigger space. Width and then margin top. So I just set these again to just style my image a little bit better so it didn't take up the whole screen and look like really bad. So yeah, that's basically all the code. The JS I did not type in. I think this like typed in by itself, and that's probably like something we can learn next time. So that's all for my webpage. So now if you guys want to, if you found this webinar enjoyable and you would like to keep coding, first of all, you can obviously reference this video. I think it'll like post to the YouTube, and you can also try with the starter code. I think I put like, where did I put it? Somewhere, yeah, right here, the starting code. You guys can obviously reference this and try this yourself and see a web page come to life. But if there's some other other tools you want, Code Academy is a really good one. I don't think you have to make an account for that, or you might, but it's like you don't have to pay at all. W3 school is completely free. I don't even think you need an account unless you want to save your work. You can try their try editor. It's really good. CodePen, Code.org, and HTML Dog. These are all the ones you use, but all the ones I use. So you guys can try these as well. But there's also really good tutorials other places too. So yeah. So in conclusion for today, what we learned and what I want you guys to take away is that today you guys were able to learn the foundations of building websites with HTML and CSS. You learned that, remember, structure and foundation comes with HTML, and styling and making your webpage look really pretty comes with CSS. So I really hope this inspired you guys to keep going and maybe even create your own portfolio site or webpage someday like I created mine. And if you found this webinar enjoyable, I really would like if you guys could join me on the next one as well, because I'll be teaching a new enjoyable STEM topic. And if anyone has any ideas, I hope you can leave comments. So leave a comment if you have any ideas. So if you have any questions or any confusion about tags, CSS, and additional resources, please let me know. And yeah, that's it. So thank you for your time. If you have any additional questions, please reach out on the STEM for Others YouTube channel, or you can find my email. So yeah, thank you.